Hello class. I want to go over the practice exam for you guys so you guys can be well prepared. So this is it. Please take notes on it. Alright, so the first thing we want to do with this problem is we want to get the absolute value by itself. So that's this piece. So that means we got to get rid of this 27. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 27 to both sides. And what that's going to give me is the absolute value of 4x plus 4 is equal to 20. Now from here, this is the critical piece to this problem when dealing with absolute value. To get rid of the absolute value, we're going to end up with two possibilities. One is going to look exactly the same, and the other is going to be the same on one side, but then equal to the opposite on the other. And that's how you end up with your two answers. So with this one, I'd subtract 4. I'm going to subtract 4, so I'm going to get 4x is equal to 16. And then dividing by 4, I should get x is equal to 4. On the other side, I'll subtract 4, so I'll subtract 4. So 4x will equal a negative 24. And so x will equal a negative 6. And so you have two answers with this problem. You should always check to make sure by plugging in. So if I go 4 times a negative 6, that's a negative 24. Plus 4 is a negative 20, but the absolute value of negative 20 is positive 20. And then minus the 27, that gives me that negative 7. So this works. And then 4 times 4 is 16 plus 4. That's 20. And then absolute value of 20 stays 20. Minus 27 gives me a negative 7, and so that works also. Okay. With this next problem, again dealing with absolute value, we're going to have two options. So when we get rid of the absolute value, we're going to have v plus 2 is less than or equal to 3. Or v plus 2, flip the inequality and make it the opposite sign, so it becomes a negative 3. So when I subtract 2, I'm going to get v is less than or equal to 1. When I subtract 2 here, I'm going to get v is greater than or equal to a negative 5. So here's v greater than or equal to negative 5. It's going to go this way. And then at 1, greater than or equal to, again, it's shaded in, and we're going to go this way. And so what we end up having is this area is my answer to this problem. Okay? All right. For number 3, this is our equation. I'll write it down here because they're going to put us on a different page so we can see it. And we're going to check if these ordered pairs work. So it tells us right here the first is x, the second number is y, and so I'm going to go 7 times 0 plus 3 times a negative 8. Is that equal to 2? Well, is 0 minus 24 equal to 2? Clearly not. Then we'll go 7 times 2 plus 3 times a negative 4 is equal to 2. Let's see if that is. That tells me that I have 14 plus a negative 12. Is that equal to 2? The answer is yes. Okay. I already know that's the only answer because once you find one answer and it's a line, typically that is the only answer. But it's always good to check just in case they put another point that is on that line. Sometimes they try to do that to trick you. So this would be 35 plus 6. Is that equal to 2? Of course not. And then 7 times negative 1 plus 3 times 3. Is that equal to 2? And so I think this is it. A negative 7 plus 9, is that equal to 2? And the answer is yes. So in this example, they tried to trick us. So let's not be lazy. Let's make sure that we check all possibilities. Okay. Now for number 4, it's asking us to graph this line. And so to make my life easier, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in slope-intercept form. And all I did there was add 3x to both sides. So now, if we remember slope-intercept form, it's mx plus b, where b is the intercept on the y-axis. And this is the y-axis here, and this is the x-axis here. So we're going to go right here at 3, and then the slope is telling us to go up 3 and to the right 1. So up 3 and to the right 1, and there's our line. You could have also gone down 3 to the right 1, and you would have ended up right there. Okay? And then you can always check your points by plugging them in. So let's say that I did use that 6, 1. I could have gone, 1, 6. I could have gone, is 6 equal to 3 times 1 plus 3? Well, 3 plus 3 is 6. And so this works out. So I know I'm right. Okay. Number 5. Graph the line y equals -3. Since it doesn't tell me what x is, it doesn't matter what x is. Y is always going to be -3. And so that's this line right here. So anytime you see y equals, that's going to be a horizontal line. If you see x equals some number, that's going to always be a vertical line. So that's going to be going up, straight up and down. So that's something important for you guys to know. Okay. Now in this problem, it's asking us to find the x and y intercepts. And so to find the x-intercept, we're going to set y equal to 0. And so I'm going to get a -6x plus 5 times 0 is equal to 9. So then -6x is equal to 9. So x is equal to 9 divided by -6, or a -3/2. So this should be a -3/2. Now to find the y-intercept, we're going to set x equal to 0. And so we're going to get -6 times 0 plus 5y is equal to 9. So 5y is equal to 9. So y is equal to 9/5. But these are the critical pieces in finding that information. So please be aware of that. It is very important. Okay, for number 7, determine whether the slope is positive, negative, 0, or undefined. Well, the way I like to think of this is as I'm going this way, am I going up a hill or down a hill? So in this case, it looks like I'm going downhill. Downhill is negative. Any vertical line has an undefined slope because when you try to find the slope, the x values are the same for both points, and so the denominators will always be 0. With the horizontal line, you always get a 0 slope because the y values are the same. And then again, just like the other one, as I'm going to the right, am I going uphill or downhill? Here I'm going uphill, and so this should be a positive. Okay? All right, here's number 8, and it's asking us to find the slope. So first thing we need to do is be able to find, just to find the slope. That's even easier, so let's do that. If I draw lines, just so you guys can kind of see this way and this way. Oops, I messed up where I put that line. It should be right here. Okay, let's look at it. If I start at this point, I went up 1, 2. So since I went up, my slope is going to be positive 2. Okay, then I'm going to go from this point where they intersect, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's going to be a 5 down here. But did I go right or left? Since I went left, it's going to be a negative, and that's my slope. Okay? All right, another way to do it is like number 9. I like to think of it as like elevator floors. So I'm going from here to here, and I'm going from negative to positive. So I'm going up floors, and if I'm 8 floors below 0, that means I gotta go up 8 and then another 6. So what's 8 plus 6? 8 plus 6 is 14. And then I'm going to go from here to here, and I see I'm 3 floors below 0, and then I get to the 5th floor, so I got to go up 3, and then up another 5, so 3 plus 5 is 8, and that can be reduced by 2, so I'm going to get 7 over 4, and that's the slope for this one. Okay? All right, number 10. Find the equation. Now to find the equation is different. We have to find the slope, and we have to do some different things. And so I'll show you how to do that right now. So here to here to make that triangle, I went up 2, right? So my slope is going up 2, and then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I went to the left, so it's a negative 6, so that reduces to a negative 1/3. And so then I'm going to go y is equal to a negative 1/3 x plus b. These are the things I don't know. But this point right here, isn't that point 2 comma 1? So my x is 2. So we'll go negative 1/3 times 2 plus b that I don't know is supposed to equal 1. So 1 is equal to a negative 2/3 plus b. Let me add 2/3 to the other side. So I'm going to get 1 plus 2/3 is equal to b. So b is equal to 3 over 3 plus 2 over 3. So b is equal to 5 over 3. And so my equation is y is equal to a negative 1/3 x plus 5 over 3. Now, that should make sense because 5 over 3 is between 1 and 2. And did we cross the y-axis between 1 and 2? We did. Okay. Next question. Consider the line y is equal to a negative 9 plus 9. Find an equation that is parallel. Now to be parallel, remember, the slope has to be the same. So for part A, the slope is the same, so I'm going to go y is equal to a negative 9x plus b. And I'm going to use this point. So I'm going to go 5 is equal to a negative 9 times 2 plus b. So doesn't that give me 5 is equal to a negative 18 plus b? If I add 18, that's going to give me 23 is my b. So that should be y is equal to a negative 9 plus 23. That's the answer to part A. For part B, we want perpendicular. And perpendicular means it's the opposite reciprocal. So then that's going to give me y is equal to 1 over 9x plus b. And again, we're using the same point. And so that's going to give me 5 is equal to 2/9 plus b. Subtracting 2/9, I'll do it this way. 9 times 9 is 45 over 9. Minus 2/9 is equal to b. So b is equal to 43 over 9. So my second equation is going to be y is equal to 1/9 x plus 43 over 9. Okay, this problem's cool. We're going over 1 on the inputs, and we're going up 3. So this is going up a plus 3, up a plus 3, up a plus 3. Every time this goes up plus 1, plus 1, plus 1. So we know that the slope of this is m is 3. Okay? I want to erase that so we don't get all confused. But I wanted you guys to be able to see how I got the slope. And now when it wants the nth term, the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to use one of the points and see what I get. So I'm going to go y is equal to 3 times x plus b. And let me use the 3, 1 numbers. So the input is 3. That goes for x. And the output is 1. So I'm going to get 1 is equal to 9 plus b. Subtracting 9 from 1 is going to give me a negative 8 for b. And so my equation is going to be y is equal to 3x minus 8. And that is the nth term, or really what they're probably going to want is it like this, 3n minus 8. That's because n is getting plugged in for x. All right, number 13. It says Frank is a software salesman. Let y represent his total pay. Let x represent the total number of copies of History is Fun he sells. Suppose x and y are related by the equation 2400 plus 120x is equal to y. Note that the changes can be increased or decreased. For instance, use a positive number for the decrease. For the increase, use a positive number. For the decrease, use a negative number. So what is the change in Frank's total pay for each copy of the History is Fun he sells? So for each copy that he sells, it's going to be this number right here. Because if you look, if I start at 0, you're going to have 2400, and then if you make it a 1, it's going to go up by 120. Every time it's going to go up by 120 because the 120 is the slope. So the change, or what he's going to make, is $120. So then it says, what is Frank's total pay if he doesn't sell any copies of the History is Fun book? Well, that would be x is 0, and so he would get $2,400. Okay, so it should be 120 and 2,400. And we can check if you'd like. Let's see, what did I say? 120 and 2,400. There it is. Okay. Let's get these last couple done. All right, number 14. The height in centimeters of a candle in a linear function is a linear function of the amount of time it has been burning. When the graph of the function gives a line with a slope of 0.03, you see the figure below, suppose that the height of the candle after 19 hours is 20.3 centimeters. What is the height of the candle after 13 hours? Okay, so they're telling us this right here is the slope, and then this is actually coordinates, right? So what we're getting is 19 hours, comma 20.3 centimeters for the height, and we know that the slope is this. So we can come up with an equation. In fact, let me get a calculator because I'm going to need it for this piece. Okay, so I'm going to get 20.3 is equal to negative 0.03 times 19. And then we're going to get that b because we need to find out what the equation is, right? So this ends up being 20.3 is equal to a negative 5.7 plus b. So b, we got to add that 5.7. So that's going to give me 26. And now we have an equation. And so they want to know what the height is at 13 hours. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 13 in for x and see what we get. I get y is 22.1 centimeters. And this should make sense, actually. It should be taller Because if that's 19 hours that it was burning, that means the candle's getting smaller. So at 13 hours, it should have been taller because it didn't burn down. So that's my answer to this problem. Okay. And then number 15. Okay, it says a function relates to the input k. Oh, a function relates the input k to the output n is equal to 3k minus 5, which is the independent variable here. So the independent variable is going to be the one that is not solved for. So the one that's the one that's not solved for is the independent variable. So in this case, it will be k. Watch, and I'll show you just so you guys can see it. You can see right there that it in fact is k. Okay, then going back here, it says the weight of a package affects the cost to send the package through the mail, which is the dependent variable. So which one depends on which? And look, it says right here, the weight affects the cost. So since the weight affects the cost depends on the weight. So the dependent variable is the cost. Because if it weighs less, it costs less. If it weighs more, it costs more. So it's how the weight is that affects everything else. Okay. A family is measuring its house in order to figure out how much paint will be needed to paint the house. What is the dependent variable in the relationship? Well, you can buy any amount of paint, but your house isn't going to get changed if you're just painting it, right? You can add to the house by doing construction, but you can't add to the house by painting in terms of size. And so the dependent variable is the amount of paint needed because the house is going to be fixed. Okay? So just remember, dependent is always what's going to rely on what the other number is doing. And independent is something that can be anything that it wants to be. Okay, this is the recording for our practice exam. Please go over it frequently and understand it. Tomorrow is your exam. All the best.